I'm really excited to dive into today's topic because it's been on the minds of so many fans, and I know you've been asking, where the hell has the Punisher been since his epic run in Daredevil, Born Again? I promise you, by the end of this video, you're going to have a much clearer picture of Frank Castle's mysterious absence, and we're going to talk about every single point from his influence on Matt Murdock's story to his possible return in Episode 9 and even beyond. Let's get right into it. Today, we're discussing why the Punisher has been missing from most of Daredevil, Born Again, and what that means for his character, the show, and the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm going to break it all down for you in clear, simple terms. If you're a die-hard fan, or even if you just enjoy a good mystery with your superhero drama, stick around because we're in for one wild ride. So first off, let's talk about how the Punisher, that's Frank Castle, has had a huge influence on Matt Murdock's journey in this series. You remember that scene in episode 4 when Matt goes to him, right? Frank sees the rage and desire in Matt, the longing to go back to the kind of violent justice he once believed in. And here's where it gets really interesting. Despite this deep connection and the fact that the Punisher played such a vital role in shaping Matt's character, he has been almost completely absent from Daredevil, Born Again after that moment. Now, why would a character this important who set so many events in motion vanish from the storyline? Many fans point out that while his influence is felt strongly in Matt's actions and even in the way law enforcement in New York has taken up his iconography, Frank Castle himself seems to have taken an extended break from his lethal vigilante life. Just think about it, in the time between the end of The Punisher Season 2 and when we see him in Daredevil, Born Again, several members of the New York Police Department have started using his image to promote their own violent methods of fighting crime. And that is kind of scary when you consider what that means about our society's view of justice. Now, I know this might leave you wondering, but what exactly has Frank been up to all this time? Well, that's the million-dollar question. In Daredevil, Born Again, Episode 4, we catch a glimpse of him. He is shown with longer hair and a full beard, a bit different from the classic look we're used to from his earlier appearances. This transformation suggests that something big happened during his absence. Frank is not just a symbol, he is a man with deep feelings and inner conflict, and his weariness with the life of vigilantism is very apparent. Even though he has had his differences with Matt over the use of lethal force, Frank still stands by his brutal methods. I mean, imagine how hard it must be to constantly disagree with someone you once shared a similar path with. Let me break it down a bit more. Ever since his big showdown with Matt and his decision to stick with his own way of fighting crime, Frank seems to have pulled back. Instead of jumping headfirst into battle, it appears he's taken his time, likely investigating some very dangerous and shadowy corners of New York City. There are some hints that he might be looking into criminal gangs and even possibly the corruption within the police force itself. And while Frank might look like he's not been out there swinging his massive arsenal or taking part in epic fights, that doesn't mean he's off the grid. In fact, his current setting up of a makeshift headquarters filled with weapons, clippings, screens, and investigative tools all suggests that he's busy working on something big behind the scenes. I also have to mention that while this pause in his direct involvement might feel frustrating to many fans, it opens the door to some really exciting possibilities. Think about it, with one episode left in Daredevil, Born Again, there's a strong chance that we'll get to see Frank return in a major way. Many of you have noticed that in the trailers and promotional clips, Jon Bernthal's Punisher appears in his classic short hair, clean-shaven look. That's a stark contrast to the rugged image we saw recently, and it almost hints that we're going to get a nostalgic return to his previous persona. And let me tell you, that's a return we're all hoping for. What makes the whole situation even more interesting is the complicated relationship between Frank Castle and Matt Murdock. We've seen that they have a long history of disagreeing over whether or not lethal force should be used. Even after all these years, their debates about right and wrong, justice and revenge, continue to be at the heart of their relationship. In the context of Daredevil, Born Again, this disagreement hasn't been resolved at all, and it's one of the major reasons why Frank is only given a minor role in a couple of episodes. It's like they're stuck in a loop, each caught between their own convictions and the realities of a crime-ridden New York City. Now, let's talk about that missing time. There's been so much speculation among fans about what Frank Castle has been doing since his last appearance in The Punisher Season 2. We all know that he turned down an offer to work with the authorities, choosing instead to do things his own way. So what exactly might he be working on during his time away from the main action? One possibility is that he's been gathering information on some very dangerous criminal elements, perhaps even something as significant as a major corruption scandal within the NYPD. Imagine if Frank, who has never been one to back down from a fight, has been quietly collecting evidence, building a case against some of the most corrupt figures in the city. That would not only explain his absence but also set the stage for an explosive return. There's also a twist here that you might not have considered. In Daredevil, Born Again, we've seen that some people have been impersonating the Punisher. Yes, that's right, individuals using his likeness to commit terrible crimes. One case in point is the murder of Hector Ayala, also known as White Tiger, where the blame was shifted onto innocent civilians. This kind of impersonation not only tarnishes Frank's reputation but also creates a lot of confusion about who the real Punisher is. And if we think about it, this could be another major reason why Frank has been kept away from the limelight. The creators might want to avoid blurring the lines between the real Frank and these imposters until they have a clear plan to sort everything out. Now, for those of you who love a good mystery and crave suspense, let me ask you this: what do you think will be the catalyst for Frank Castle's return? One theory that's really getting traction is tied to the dramatic events of Daredevil, Born Again Episode 8. You may remember that episode ended on a cliffhanger, with Matt Murdock saving Wilson Fisk from a near-fatal sniper attack by Bullseye. That split-second decision by Matt set off a chain reaction that could very well force him into a situation where he needs all the help he can get, and that help might just come from the Punisher's ultra-violent approach to dealing with his enemies. I'm personally leaning toward the idea that Frank will make a comeback in Episode 9, joining forces with Matt to take down Wilson Fisk and Bullseye once and for all. If that happens, it could be one of the most emotionally impactful moments in the series. The build-up of their unresolved tension, the clash of ideologies, and the sheer grit of their characters coming together, it's also relatable in a way. We see these characters struggle with their own demons and the harsh realities of a corrupt system, and it makes you wonder, in a world that's so full of pain and injustice, where do you draw the line between right and wrong? And as fans, we can't help but empathize with their struggles because deep down, we all have moments where we feel lost, desperate, or even ready to break our own rules to fight for what we believe in. There's also an important aspect to this discussion that goes beyond just the plot. This entire storyline speaks to us on a personal level. Many of you have told me how you see parts of yourselves in these characters, their battles, their tough choices, their moments of vulnerability. Frank's transformation, his inner conflict about using violence as a means to an end, and even Matt's spiraling rage all mirror feelings many of us have felt at one time or another. It makes the story not just about heroes and villains, but about the human condition and the struggle for justice in a world that often seems unfair. I want to take a moment here to say thank you for being such an amazing community. Your messages, comments, and support keep this conversation alive and make it so much more than just a discussion about a TV show. We're all here because we share a love for these complex stories, characters who break the mold, and the endless debates about what is right and what is wrong. And that's why I encourage all of you to hit that like button if you're feeling what I'm saying, and subscribe if you haven't already. Your involvement means the world to me and helps this community grow every day. Now, let's circle back to the idea of the Punisher's possible spin-off in the MCU. Yes, you heard that right, Marvel Studios is gearing up to release a Punisher spin-off after Daredevil, Born Again, in the form of a special presentation. Think about the possibilities here. This spin-off could explore Frank's life during the so-called blip or during the time between Daredevil, Born Again Seasons 1 and 2. Alternatively, it might even run parallel to the events we've been watching, revealing new layers to his character and perhaps even explaining his mysterious absence in greater detail. By diving deeper into his past and present, the spin-off might show us how a man so fueled by rage and loss can still fight for what he sees as justice even when the system has failed him time and time again. I can't help but get a little emotional talking about this because Frank Castle is more than just a symbol of revenge. He's a symbol of the very human struggle for survival in a broken world. His choices, his pain, and even the way he's been forced to hide away from the public eye speak volumes about the cost of living in a system that often punishes you for standing up against it. And when you consider how many of us have ever felt marginalized or misunderstood, it's no wonder that Frank resonates with so many people. There's a part of him that reminds us that sometimes, even when we think we're alone in our struggles, there are others out there who feel the same weight of the world on their shoulders. So, let's dive deeper into why his absence might even be a strategic move by the writers. One important factor is the creative overhaul that Daredevil, Born Again has undergone. With this new direction, the creators decided to integrate Frank Castle into the narrative, but only in very specific instances. By doing this, they're not only preserving his iconic status but also letting his presence linger in the background. It creates a sense of anticipation, like you're waiting for a thunderstorm to break the calm. Every time you see a hint of his influence, whether it's in the symbolism embraced by the police or a flash of his image in promotional material, it makes you wonder, what's next? Where will he pop up next? This slow build-up keeps the viewers on the edge of their seats, eager for more and more hints of an explosive return. Now, I want you to think about how this all ties back to the theme of community and identity. For many of us, Marvel's stories are more than just entertainment. They're a way to see ourselves in characters who feel raw and real. The relationship between Frank and Matt isn't just about crime fighting, it's about two very different approaches to life's challenges. On one hand, you have Matt Murdock, who struggles with his own inner demons and a relentless desire to protect the innocent at any cost. On the other, there's Frank Castle, who believes in striking first and dealing with the consequences later. Their conflict is not just a battle of fists and ideals, it's a deep, personal fight about how far one can go before justice turns into something darker. And while these two might seem like opposites on the surface, there's a powerful truth in their struggle. Every one of us faces moments where our beliefs are challenged, where we have to decide whether to follow our heart or our head. In that sense, Frank's absence isn't just a plot device, it's a mirror for our own struggles with morality, identity, and the price of our decisions. It forces us to ask ourselves what we would do if we had to choose between two very different paths. That's what makes this entire storyline so emotionally driven and relatable. I also want to bring up the visual appeal of all these elements. You know, one of the best things about watching Daredevil, Born Again is how every episode feels like a painting in motion. The gritty streets of New York, the shadows and light playing across abandoned warehouses, the stark contrast between the cold, calculated look of Wilson Fisk and the raw, bruised humanity of Matt Murdock, everything is so carefully crafted. And when you think about it, Frank Castle's sparse appearances only add to that visual impact. The shots of him in his hideout, surrounded by weapons and newspaper clippings, tell a story without even needing to speak a word. Each frame is loaded with tension, mystery, and the promise of a storm about to break. Now, I want to ask you something. As someone who loves these stories, do you feel that the creators are setting us up for an epic showdown in episode 9? Are you as excited as I am for that possibility? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I want to know what you think. Do you believe that the return of the Punisher will bring a fresh dynamic to Matt Murdock's journey? Or do you feel like his absence has been building too much anticipation for what might not even happen? Your opinion matters, and this is a community where every voice counts. Before we wrap up, let's circle back to one of the most debated questions. Why would the Punisher ever consider coming back to help Daredevil? It's a tough call, especially after all the arguments they've had about the use of lethal force. But think about it this way, in times of extreme crisis, even the most stubborn and conflicted heroes might realize that sometimes you need to bend your own rules to survive. Frank Castle's ultra-violent methods could be exactly what Matt needs when he's cornered by the likes of Wilson Fisk and Bullseye. When pushed to the limit, the lines between right and wrong blur, and old grudges might be set aside for the greater good. It's a risky move, sure, but it's also one that can lead to the most thrilling, emotionally charged moments in the story. I also want to address the idea that the Punisher's off-screen time might be setting the stage for his own MCU spinoff. Marvel Studios has big plans, and the upcoming Punisher Special Presentation is expected to take us on a journey that fills in all the gaps. This special is poised to explore not just Frank's backstory, but also the broader consequences of his actions on the world around him. Imagine diving deeper into the gritty, unforgiving side of his character that we only get glimpses of in Daredevil, Born Again. It's a chance to see how a man who has faced so much pain and loss chooses to carry on, and it promises to add a whole new layer to the Marvel Universe. This is where the emotional impact really kicks in. Every time we see the Punisher, it reminds us of the sacrifices that come with a life of relentless pursuit. Frank's journey is filled with heartbreak, tough choices, and moments where the only path forward is one that leaves scars. And while his methods are undoubtedly harsh, they are born out of a deep sense of commitment to his own form of justice. That's something many of us can relate to, the idea that sometimes the road to healing and closure is paved with pain. It's this raw emotion that makes his character so compelling and his eventual return something we all desperately want to see. As we dive deeper into this mystery, I want you to remember that the discussion here isn't just about a TV show plot. It's about the struggles that we face in our own lives, the moments when we feel abandoned, misunderstood, and on the verge of giving up. Frank Castle's journey is a reminder that even when we're at our lowest, there is strength in acknowledging our pain and fighting back, even if it means taking a path that's seen as extreme by others. His choices, his hesitations, and his eventual decisions all reflect the deeper questions of how we choose to fight for what we believe in. Before I let you go, I'd like to leave you with a call to action. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Punisher's mysterious absence from Daredevil, Born Again, and all the implications it holds for the future of the MCU, please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video with your friends. Let's create a community where we can talk about these stories, share our theories, and really connect over the things that move us. Your support makes it possible for me to keep making videos that explore these complex and fascinating topics in detail. So, to wrap things up, here's a quick recap. Despite Frank Castle's undeniable influence on Matt Murdock's story in Daredevil, Born Again, the Punisher has been noticeably absent after Episode 4. This absence hints at a lot happening behind the scenes, from his own investigation into New York's criminal underworld to the impersonation of his icon that has spread through parts of the NYPD. Even though he and Matt continue to clash over the ethics of lethal force, we're all left wondering if his eventual return, likely in Episode 9, will be enough to bring everything into focus. And in the meantime, Marvel Studios is setting up an exciting new spin-off that will hopefully fill in those missing pieces and dive even deeper into Frank's world. I'm so glad you stuck with me through this discussion, because I know it wasn't just about recapping events, it was about connecting emotionally with characters that we have come to love and understand. The Punisher, with all his flaws and complexities, shows us that even those who walk a dark path have layers of pain, hope, and occasionally, redemption. And it's that raw, honest emotion that keeps us coming back for more. Thank you all for spending this time with me. I hope you found this breakdown both engaging and enlightening. Let me know in the comments what you think about Frank's mysterious time off and whether you believe his return will change the game for Daredevil and the MCU. And, as always, I appreciate every single comment, like, and share that helps our community grow. Remember, we're all in this together, connected by our love for these stories and the lessons we take from them. Until next time, take care, stay curious, and keep fighting your own battles, no matter how difficult they may seem. I'll see you in the next video, where we'll continue to explore the thrilling twists and turns of our favorite Marvel universe. Bye for now.